Ooh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to load up the stupid. There you go. Okay, so with me today is Rambling Canuck and Pope Metallicus.
How's it going, my friend?
Rambling Canuck, History with R&R.
Yeah.
We'll be joined pretty soon by another veteran, a friend of mine as well, NB Geeks. So my name, Mr. CCDV, otherwise known on Veterans Holidays as Sergeant First Class Christopher. To get started, I was going to ask History with R&R to give us a little rundown real quick of what
Why
Armistice
November
Day
and why on the
actually
11th?
is. What's that?
Why November and why on the 11th?
Yeah, and why it's called Remembrance Day instead of
Veterans Day?
No, well, you can talk about that as well because Canadians are watching. But no, why it's called Remembrance Day for you guys instead of Armistice Day, which it was for many, many years after the war.
Yes.
And then why it's called Veterans Day in the United States. That goes back to I think it was President Roosevelt, I think. But I'll let you tell the story if you can remember much of it.
Well, I'll touch on the high spots. So the reason it's November the 11th and the main reason why in Britain it's Armistice Day is because that's what it was. November the 11th at 11 a.m. was the end of World War I. At 11 a.m., the guns stopped. At 10:55, they were still shooting people, but at 11 a.m., the guns stopped. So for the longest time, it was known as Armistice Day because that's when the armistice went into effect. It's still a scene observed on November the 11th, and most ceremonies, especially in Canada, start at 11 a.m. I'm not sure about Britain because I've never been there, but most ceremonies in Canada, it's 11 a.m. When they would roll out the guns, it's 11 a.m. When they, any of the major Remembrance Day ceremonies, they'll all start at 11 a.m. for the significance of 11/11. Now, Remembrance Day in Canada is different in really only one sense. In the United States, you have Veterans Day and Memorial Day. In Canada, we have Remembrance Day, period. So where you separate the two, which Mr. CCTV in our video, History with R&R's video today, pointed out, you separate saluting the current serving and those that have come before.
Right.
Into 2 different days. Where up here, we have Remembrance Day, period. So Remembrance Day encompasses it all. Veterans Day is separate in the sense it's still on November the 11th which always confused me. I always thought Memorial Day should be the 11th and flip the other, but whatever. I'm nitpicking, but that's the general gist. I mean, there are political things and stuff, but the main gist of it is that the main reason that it's on the 11th is Armistice Day, because that was the day World War I ended. Right. And 11 o'clock is because that's when the guns stopped. Right. As I say, 10:55, they were still shooting people. At 11 o'clock, well, so that's the main gist of it.
And from what I was reading this week, apparently the last day of the war was just the mother of all artillery barrages, because they still had ammo and they didn't want to take it home.
Oh yeah,
so they just shot it all.
I think,
which sounds like way too many exercises I've been part of, where World we still got it, shoot it.
Was at 10:58.
Yeah, it was a Canadian too. It was some corporal died at like 10:58 a.m.
5 Americans. Yeah,
well, again, the most famous movie about that date and time is All Quiet on the Western Front.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the old one.
I'll be going over tonight with a couple of guys over
the
on
old
my
one
channel.
That was made a few decades ago, and then of course the one that was just made recently that's been dubbed into English. But that was actually made by the Germans.
Yep,
I do believe that's more.
I tend to like it a lot more listening to it in German with English subtitles, because it feels like off to hear German soldiers speaking in English.
I just can't be bothered to read. That's my problem.
Well, hey, I'm a Marine. We can't read.
How do those crayons taste, by the way?
I like the good ones. They taste like Windows.
So thank you, Rambling Canuck. Pope Metallicus, let me know, why did you join, and how long did you serve, and are you like proud of your service, especially on a day like today?
Well, I mean, I joined in 2008 because I wanted to I did 2 years at Norwich University. I was studying to become an officer, and then I had a conversation with Nathaniel Fick.
And welcome to the panel, Positive Candor. Thank you for being here. Appreciate that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pope.
And then I was a freshman in high school when 9/11 happened. And I think that moment was the one. I'd always been interested in the military, and then my grandfathers both served in World War II, one in the Pacific and then one in Europe. So I wanted to serve because of them. And then when 9/11 happened, I think that was the moment where I decided that, this is something I want to do. All right. And then I dropped out of school in 2007 and then enlisted in the Marine Corps in 2008. And served for 4 years, did my tour in Afghanistan with 5th Marines. And then who were in World War I as well. They were the Marines at Belleau Wood. Were mostly 5th and 6th.
Yeah. You see the 3rd Infantry Division patch on my uniform.
Yep, they were there too.
Can't get it very close. Yeah, 3rd Infantry, Rock of the Marne.
And then
right there in France.
I got out in 2012 because we figured Bin Laden was dead. It looked like the wars were winding down. Iraq was pretty much done. And then nobody wants to be in the infantry in a peacetime Marine Corps because it's all just uniform inspections and bullshit. So I just kind of went my own way after that. And who knew that the war was going to grind on for another 8 years? And then
I did.
Yeah, I had a sinking feeling that it was going to, but I was listening like, it can't. But it did, and then it ended the way it did, and that hurt. That one hurt, because especially ending the way it did, it just felt like everything we fought for was for fucking nothing. Not that I'm any less proud of what we did or having done what I did.
Right. Yeah.
But it sucked seeing it end like that. That was kind of a gut punch. Especially
totally
that fast.
That. Hey, if you want to put your channel link in the private chat,
Yeah, absolutely, man.
one of my wrenches will get it up there. I suppose I could flip back and forth, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, still learning how to do all this stuff.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, especially with our handicap, and we're veterans. We don't handle technology.
Army has to use little words.
And the Marines will either break it or get it pregnant, one or the other.
Positive Candor, welcome to the panel. Thank you for being here.
Go blah.
Well, it's your turn.
I mean, joined mainly just kind of almost for the hell of it, not really for any purpose. In 1988, and served for 20 years until 2008 when I retired. But yeah, I didn't really join for any specific reason per se. Just mainly to, I guess, more than anything, have a steady job, steady paycheck, steady whatever uh, type thing. Went in as a corpsman in the Navy. Later on, specialized as a pharmacy tech. And then I was stationed on two different ships on a carrier, which was a Truman pre-combat. So, you know, was a plank owner on a Truman, which means the only way to become a plank owner is you either commission it or decommission it, pretty much, one or the other. Those are only two ways to ever become a plank owner of something. So the ship got commissioned by then President Clinton. I want to say in 1997, maybe. Look it up real quick, maybe.
Did you ever end up in the Persian Gulf on a ship or anything
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
oh yeah, many times, especially on that second ship, on the amphibious ship, otherwise known as a gator freighter. We did lots of patrols around the oil fields. The first time when
That's
we
back in
were,
91. Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, this was in 2000 and
Oh.
6, but at that time the oil fields were still blazing. I guess because they had kicked up again.
I don't remember actually. I
Dude,
was there
06
in
would have been the year of Phantom Fury. The second
um,
battle of Fallujah.
yeah. So
So
yeah,
you guys are probably supporting that.
they lit the oil fields afire again because
I was there in 05 and they weren't on fire. So
that's one of the worst smells that you can smell is burning oil. So I distinctively remember that.
And it's impossible to put them out too.
Yeah,
yeah, you can't even cap them.
yeah. Okay, I guess the Truman was actually commissioned in 1998, July 25th. It says, but okay, it was later than I thought because I was on it. I want to say from 97 to 99. Well, I know it was on it 3 years, maybe 2000, but I got off of it right before it deployed for the first time, at least for the Truman. But then I made 2 deployments on my second ship on the Gator freighter. And then, like I said, yeah, the first time I remember the oil fields being afire when we were patrolling off the coast of Iraq. And I remember we had anchored off the coast of Qatar, but then, like, not more than 10 minutes later, we had to pull up anchor and get the hell out of there because all these little boats, and that's the main thing you remember from being there, all these little goofy boats would just try to get as close as they can. And because of the coal incident where they blew up the coal,
Hmm.
they weren't taking chances anymore of letting these little small boats get close to you. So, we started laying down fire from the 50 cows on the ship and basically hightailed it out of there. But yeah, always when we were on patrol, you had these little boats, seeing how close they could get before we started shooting the 50 cows at them to make them turn around, basically.
Yeah.
So
and,
yeah,
and
it's most
it's unfortunate because most of them are just like, sightseeing or trying to get as close to the ship as they can so they can get a good look at her. And after, like you say, after the cold, we weren't screwing around.
yeah.
Like you get too close and you're getting lit up.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the main thing. And then we found a floating dead guy somewhere off the coast of, I guess, Afghanistan, Pakistan, one of them stands, whichever one is the one closest to the water.
That'd be Pakistan. Yeah.
That'd be Pakistan, yeah.
Okay, so off the coast of Pakistan, we found a floating dead Pakistani, I guess. We took him to Bahrain, and we were in and out of Bahrain like about 4 or 5 times because we only had one good engine on the ship because it was a piece of crap, basically.
Built by the lowest bidder.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we only had really one good engine the whole deployment, plus they extended the deployment an extra month. And yeah, so that was no fun.
I'm out of
Yeah.
coffee, so I'm going to go grab another cup of coffee and I'll be right back. You guys carry on.
All right. But
Marine
yeah.
and Navy, we should have at least something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we transported
You were a
Marines.
corpsman, right?
Yeah, I was a corpsman.
Nice. So you dealt with the Marines quite a bit.
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, especially on the second ship I was on because it was primarily Marines that we were taking to.
The amphibs were where expeditionary units fucking lived for like 3 months.
Yeah, they were on there. We dropped them off in Jordan to do their thing. So I got to at least step foot in Jordan for a good, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, I guess.
Yeah, probably before we went on to Iraq, which is where most of my seniors were familiar with. Most of those guys were all either Fallujah or Ramadi veterans. So those guys, like, I felt really glad to have those guys as my seniors because those guys learned those lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
And made sure that we knew it too because they were sick and tired of losing Marines.
Yeah, and then got to go to Kuwait on the LCAC, which, if you know what LCAC is, it's a big little floaty type ship with 2 big fans on the end of it, basically.
Yep, an assault hovercraft, which is an interesting concept.
Yeah, so I was in Kuwait for maybe an hour or 2 before they took us back.
Nice.
So, been a bunch of places. Obviously, we pulled in. You always pull in the road to Spain, no matter what, because that's a major Navy base there in Rota, which is right before you go through the Straits of Gibraltar, mainly into the Mediterranean Sea.
And what kind of things did you do while you were on shore leave in Rota?
Well, obviously, everybody gets drunk and smashed the first night, and
goes about trying to add to the local population.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a given. Anytime you pull in, everybody's going to get smashed and drunk and act a fool and get into trouble and and all this crap.
A long time honored tradition among not only sailors but Marines as well.
Yeah. So it's normal, and every ship I've been on has been basically a love boat. Because officers are always hitting on the enlisted females,
Which
male
is funny because they're
officers.
not supposed to.
Yeah, they're not supposed to, and they get away with it, and then the females get busted, basically down in rank.
Yeah. It's always the females who get busted for that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, that's pretty ironic.
Which
So,
that was the thing when they were first talking about having females in the infantry. Because it was going to be like one in a platoon. It's just like, do you want her to be knocked up constantly? Because one of us is going to be hitting it. Like, period. Like, it's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
So you're putting a young, probably fairly attractive female around 30 to 35 young, very in shape, very aggressive men. One of us is going to be hitting it. Period. It's like, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying what's going to happen.
It just is what it is.
Really. Yeah, no.
I mean, you're talking about an aggressive culture of men who are like manly men.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough. I've been quartermaster my entire career. I never. I played infantry for a little while. Like I said, I was in third.
I'd like to apologize. I'd like to apologize on behalf of the grunts because we like to steal a lot of your shit.
Well,
especially
there's a reason they call us pogues.
We're not going to get in trouble.
Person on ground with unused equipment. If it goes missing, we just report it.
Yeah, so obviously being a corpsman, you'd have to shoot some Rosethan in a couple of dudes' asses and shit like that, and say, don't do that again. But of course, they would do it again and again and again anyway. So it doesn't
naturally.
Especially in my position as a proud member of the Lance Corporal Underground. I think you guys call it the E4 Mafia.
Yeah, the E4 Mafia. I always hated that.
What, the specialists will screw off as soon as we're given fucking any opportunity?
Well, pretty much. But then again, I was that guy too. So
then that's the thing, was once you're higher up in rank, you know what's going on because you did it too.
Exactly. So there are some senior NCOs who turn a blind eye, walk the other way, but we know where to find you.
Oh, exactly. If you need something, you know where to come. But you're also let us get away with it because you want favors.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, specialist, I need you to go do something. Yes, Sergeant.
Yeah, and we'll get it done quick too, because we want to go back to doing nothing.
Yeah. So I joined in '95, peacetime, and these stories, all my stories are on History with R&R, stories with Mr. CCDV. I joined in '95 because I found myself going back to the high school after I graduated, and I realized, yeah, they are my friends. Yeah, they're seniors in high school now, but I'm that guy now, and I don't want to be that guy. So I found something better to do. And I went to Fort Jackson for basic training. That's we called it Relaxin' Jackson.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know, I did a lot of push-ups and sit-ups.
Well, as my senior drill instructor put it, there are two types of Marines. There are smart Marines and there are strong Marines. Y'all are fixing to be some really strong Marines.
And Fort Lee, Virginia, the home of the quartermaster for AIT. Was not expecting the outbreak of the hostilities in Bosnia. Nope. No, sir.
No one
joined
really
in November of '95, and the drill sergeant sat us down and said, well, I know you joined in peacetime and you probably joined for the college money, but guess what?
I remember in the summer of 2008, we were all in infantry school, and they used to have like the news on in the chow hall and stuff like that. So we were all sitting there one afternoon, and like during lunch, and then that was when everybody got the word that Russia had invaded Georgia. Nice.
I was up there.
But like, and we're sitting there looking at it like, fuck, forget the Iraqis. We're off to fight the Russians, boys.
Oh, I tell you
Fortunately,
what,
that never happened, but
yeah,
yikes.
I'm really glad that didn't happen.
Well,
Not that I could get called back anyway.
Yeah, although it looks like Ukraine might be a little bit more serious than we thought.
In let's see, 98, I went to Bosnia. Came back with the 1st Cav Division band, and I got to play tuba for 2 years. So
Nice.
that was pretty cool.
Must have been a pretty nice gig. Be in the army
Yeah,
to play
it was
tuba.
actually pretty cool. Yeah. Got my bus driver's license. Took the band around Texas, Kansas. We went out to California, Fort Irwin one time for a change of command in the summertime.
Oh, that must have been fun.
Yeah. Couldn't even touch my tuba.
Yeah,
But
because we I think Fort Irwin's right near 29 Palms, and I believe the Marines lovingly refer to that
geography,
place,
yeah.
and we refer to that place lovingly as Satan's asshole.
Yeah.
Because it's like 120 degrees, and I don't think 29 Palms has ever heard the term air conditioning, because we sure as hell didn't have it.
Yeah. Well, I left the Army in 2000 and went and worked at LAX. And I was working at LAX when September 11th happened, 2001. So I had already had 5 years as a soldier in the Quartermaster Corps. So I just went to the recruiter and I said, okie dokie, sign me up. And they did. Had to go through MEPS again, but
always a fun process.
Yeah. So I expected to go to Afghanistan, and that never happened. What did happen is Iraq. So in February of 2003, I went to Kuwait, and we played around in the sands of Kuwait for a little while, and then at the end of March, we went into Iraq.
Oh, so you were part of the first wave.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been fun, going through what we refer to as the bum rush for Baghdad.
The bum rush for Baghdad, yeah.
Because like we didn't, looking at how fast that happened, we didn't stop.
That was an extremely confusing convoy. Absolutely the most confusing convoy I've ever been on.
Because we were just going.
It was 4 days straight. I think we never stopped driving. Got to the first stop. I keep wanting to say Objective Rams, but I think that's wrong.
Now, I knew a couple of guys who were in First Marine, who were in the first wave with the Marines, and one of them actually had a bunch of pictures from Saddam's palace, because that was where they got billeted when they got to Baghdad. One of them had a picture of him sitting on Saddam's golden toilet.
I did have to go up there a couple of times for resupply of fuel or something like that. I don't really remember exactly why, but yeah, I had to go to the palace a couple of times. That dude really was living like a king.
He was.
And
that was one of like 3 palaces he actually had.
Yeah, yeah.
That was just the nicest one.
So came back from that. And then 2005, I went over there, went to QS Base Complex, built a fuel system there. Came back from that, went to Germany for a little while. I actually got to go to Israel on a military mission in 2008. That was their 60th anniversary as a recognized nation. That was pretty cool. That was a good one. Came back from that, went to contracting school, became a contract specialist. And then in 2011, I went back to Iraq again. So what I like to say is I opened Iraq and I closed Iraq. And I was there sometime in the middle. At the end of 2011, the president gave the speech that all our troops are coming home. Guess who didn't get to go home?
Yeah, right.
On the other hand, I did get to go to Qatar, and Qatar is, Western friendly. So that was the first time I'd ever deployed where I could have a beer.
Yep.
I was allowed to have 2 a night.
I remember when we were coming home from Afghanistan, we had to stop over in Qatar. So, me and a couple of the guys snuck into one of the supply depots and started stealing cases of beer out of there, and just fucking ran over back to the platoon area with it. Started handing it out because we didn't know we were allowed to have it, but we weren't asking. We just went and grabbed that shit and then fucking handed it out.
Milton Knowles, the insane witch king, would like to know if somebody put the name Michael in front of Fort Jackson. That may have happened. I'm not sure.
I don't know that it did, but knowing the Army and our sense of humor, it absolutely happened at one point or another.
I'm sure it did at some point. Yeah, I'm sure it absolutely did.
Since I never served and I have no good stories, I'll divert to the other R if I can for a moment.
From the bottom of the Persian Gulf.
Yeah. I figure today is a good day to bring this out. Hold on. There we go. So we can go here. Bang. All right. So there, the other R in history with R&R, Richard Simpson, Admiral of Doom. He sadly passed away in January 2021. He was co-founder of History with R&R. He served in the Navy, was aboard an aircraft carrier, and as he put it, the only person to be reported over the radio as he's sitting in his ship. The way he tells it, he told it way better. But anyway, he's sitting in his station in his ship, listening to the radio. And over the radio comes this report that his vessel had been sunk. He was still on the thing. And they were very much above water. But yeah, he used to get a kick out of telling the story of the day he got told that he was at the bottom of the Persian Gulf.
And I'm sure that to this day, he's still looking down from above going, Mr. CCDV, why did you get me to start streaming?
Yeah, probably. And Canuck had something to do with it too, that bugger. But yeah,
I can only imagine that. We're just like, funny, I don't feel sinking.
Yeah.
Is that a tuna?
And the best part about it was
lean out of the compartment. Hey guys, are we on the bottom of the ocean? No? Yeah, cool.
The best part about it is it wasn't even the people that you were fighting. It was supposedly a friendly fire incident with the Germans. But there's like that.
It's always a German behind these sorts of things.
Yeah.
I would be absolutely terrified of the Iraqi Navy. Absolutely terrified.
If they had one. Which they did in 1991, and then it met the USS Missouri, and that went about as well as you'd expect.
Yep.
But the first time since World War II that a U.S. battleship had actually fired its guns in anger. And everyone quickly realized why we brought the battleships back and why we should never have gotten rid of them.
So
there is nothing as vitally impressive as a 16-inch broadside to tell you to go right to hell.
Stop what you're doing right now. And I'm serious this time.
We brought the big stick.
Take this moment before NB Geeks gets here to go around and talk about family members who have served. And since it's Remembrance Day in Canada, you can talk about those who have lost their lives as well, or made the full measure sacrifice and things like that. I'll go ahead and start. My grandfather was in World War II. I think he joined in 43, maybe 44. But he was right out of high school. He was a medic, and he was in the Army Air Corps. My three uncles, well, all five uncles, as a matter of fact, served in Vietnam. Unfortunately, my dad was born with a clubbed foot, so he would have if he had been able to. But he wasn't, so he didn't serve. My brother was in the Marine Corps. My sister was in the Air Force. My cousins, too numerous to mention, have served. So going back 3 generations, my family's been serving in the military. Probably as far back as the Civil War, as a matter of fact. My great grandfather helped. He was a stonemason, and he helped to build Fort Riley, Kansas. When I went there, I found one of the buildings, and I found the initials. You know, stonemasons often put their own initials on the stones. And so I went there, and I found one of the buildings, and I found a stone that looks like it had his initials on it. I don't really know. Gustafson is fairly common in Kansas. So there you go. I've got a long lineage of military service in my family.
Oh, for me, all my dad's brothers were in World War II overseas. They all came home because Knowles are stubborn. My father was on home defense right up until his mother put the kibosh on that one. Or at least that's the theory. The going theory is that his mother put the kibosh on that. My dad was stationed here in Winnipeg for the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. He made it up to corporal. And his brother was in, I guess, for home relief, and then he was going back over. And the word came through the grapevine that Dad was going to ship out with him. Dad was going to go. So Dad would be moved from home defense to overseas. And the order of events, according to my father, went as such. A couple of days before he was supposed to ship out, his mother arrived on base, had a meeting with the top brass. And then suspiciously, within 24 hours of that meeting, my father was honorably discharged for health reasons when he was the healthiest of his life. But, oops. So Dad gets discharged. My dad's father was in World War I. And the story, or so I'm told by my father, because I never met my grandfather, went as such. My grandfather, to his dying day, called the Germans a pain in the ass. And the reason he called them that is because that's where they shot him. So that was the family joke going forward. Yeah. But yeah, so that's a brief. And I've had family members on the other sides, in the McMahon side, go, and cousins in the Canadian Corps and Desert Storm and all that fun stuff. And but my dad, it was always funny because he's like, I've never understood how in the world I could get discharged for health reasons. I was a farm boy. I was at the peak of my health when I got discharged for health reasons. He says, I always figured it was something my mother said. It had to do with something with the fact that all my brothers were already there. And he figured she went in and went, "You're not getting him." Kissed my butt. And as I said, Knowles are stubborn. Milton will probably confirm that. But Knowles are stubborn. And, you typically don't argue with the female with the Knowles on their name ever. Because arguing with the males with the Knowles on the back of their name is a tall order as it is. So there's that.
Yeah, and then I had both of my grandfathers served. One was a Marine in the Pacific, and served on Guadalcanal, Saipan, Tarawa, and Iwo Jima. And then my granddad on the other side was in the Army and served at Vierville on day one of Normandy. So he had some interesting souvenirs that he took home. He had an Iron Cross. I assume the guy he got it off of had no further use of it.
That's most likely the case.
And a whole bunch of different armbands with the swastika on them from probably all sorts of different, like, militias from France and Belgium and all that kind of thing. And then he was actually on that failed raid with that Patton launched to try to get his son-in-law out of prison.
Oh.
And so he spent the last month of the war as a POW.
Oof.
And all my grandmother knew at the time was that he was missing.
Yeah.
So because nobody knew where they were. And then fortunately, the Germans treated them very well, apparently, because they pretty quickly realized that the roles were going to reverse and they'd be the one
right
in the cell. So they were very, very nice to all the Americans.
Well, that's good, actually. I'm glad your grandfather made it home. Your grandfather, right? Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather. And then I had an uncle serve in Vietnam in the Navy. He was on a destroyer, I think, out in the Gulf of Tonkin, escorting the carriers.
All right.
And going far back, I mean, one of my ancestors is actually Captain John Parker, the leader of the Lexington Militia on April 19th, 1775.
Really?
Yep. So, and I live like 20 minutes away from Lexington now.
Wow.
So, yeah, we apparently the Fields have a history or my family anyway, has a history in the American military since we were literally a bunch of angry farmers with guns.
Well, that's a good thing, actually. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Absolutely. And, it kind of shames me to see what Massachusetts is like now. But, back then, it's like, oh, yeah, we need your guns. It's like, yeah, don't think so. You can fuck right off. And for those of you who don't know that story, on that morning, the battle started with 77 militia and 700 British regulars. And by the end of that day, there were over 20,000 militia in the area and like 600 British regulars.
That really is a bunch of angry farmers.
Because they were outnumbered and fucking knew it. They were like, nope. And they went right back to Boston and never left again for that like 6 months until they were evacuated. They just sat in Boston because they had enough defenses in Boston that we couldn't get to them, but they were like, nope, we're not going out there. Rough crowd.
Candor?
Yeah, I know my dad was in the military for a little bit. Probably the minimum, along with I know 2 of my brothers were in for like the minimum amount of time, like maybe 4 or 5 years to the most. So yeah, in a way, my family has kind of, but yeah, I'm mainly the main one that stuck it out,
Yeah.
To at least get a retirement and everything.
Well, that would be my case as well, except I didn't actually make it to retirement. Stupid MS kicked in. Now, that's actually something I was going to ask you about, Positive Candor. You got the anthrax vaccine as well as I did, right? What about you, Pope? Did you get the anthrax?
I think we were given it, yeah.
Yeah.
But we were given a later version of it that didn't have all the negative side effects.
Ah, okay. I was always wondering if that was something that may have triggered my disease, but either way, it ended my career 2 years early. So
that sucks when you get that close.
I know.
And it wasn't anything you did. Like if you did something to get kicked out, and at that point you're like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Right, but I didn't, except I had a shattered ankle and a disease. So sad, but whatever. So yeah, and we finally got NB Geek here, but I think he walked away from his camera.
No, I'm still here, bud.
Now, Look at this. We have all 4 branches right here on the screen. If I knew any Coasties, I'd have one of them on.
Oh, I'm gonna have one on my show later.
Oh, you're gonna have a Coastie? Actually, I worked with a contractor who was retired Coastie. Boy, man, the stories he told, I was like, shit, maybe I joined the wrong branch of service for some adventure.
I've often wondered that myself because
No, I'm telling you what, man, this motherfucker saw more action than any of the most of us motherfuckers will ever see. I was like, holy shit, man. He made getting on a cutter sound exciting as fuck.
Yeah, the Coasties deal with a lot of shit that people don't see.
Well, I got into an argument in the Air Force during a school session one time because one of the test questions had to do with what would the Navy do if they saw this ship, and I was like, well, how far is the ship from the shore? They're like, that doesn't matter. I said, yes, it fucking does matter. They go, excuse me? I'm like, would this be a Navy thing or do they need to call the Coast Guard? You have to tell how far they are. They're like, no, you don't. I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, I was in the Marine Corps. I know how the Navy works, and we were taught this shit. It's like, don't tell me what I know.
Silly Air Force people.
And speaking of that, happy birthday, brother.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yesterday was a good day.
Yeah,
Always fun.
Got to talk to a whole bunch of Marines yesterday because there's a whole group of us around called Masswell Marines.
Oh, nice.
And so we all got together for the birthday. So there's probably like 50, 60 of us.
Oh, nice, man. Wish I could get to a Marine Corps. Man, I haven't been to a Marine Corps birthday. So I did 4 years in the Marine Corps, and then I did 16 in the Air Force.
Okay. So you joined the both not branches of the military, because we all know the Air Force is a corporation and the Marine Corps is a cult.
Well, I remember that if they ever gave me the other half of my brain back, but they didn't give me that back with my DD-214.
No, sadly, it never comes back.
Nah, I still got that other half of that rock they put in.
At least you
Every
haven't
now and then
yet.
I change the rock around from the right to the left side so I can, use the creative and the logical side of my brain more regularly.
Fair enough.
I saw a great, my wife showed me this one. My wife really likes TikTok, and she showed me this great one. It was from a veteran, and it was just this guy like Dial a Vet. He was doing like, it's a Dial a Vet service. And he goes, Dial a Vet? Oh, you use a derogatory statement about somebody's branch of service and another branch member heard it, and you're just now waking up? Yes, sir. See, that's not a good idea. Yeah, well, see, sir, we're like a dysfunctional family. We can say that shit, but you can't.
Exactly. It's like when people make fun of the Air Force. It's like, or when civilians make fun of the Air Force. It's like, no. You don't get to make fun of the Air Force. That's our job.
No. You don't get to make fun of the. And then he was like, oh, well, sir, I can send you some Civi approved jokes, but right now would avoid avoidance. And I hope you have a speedy recovery. And then he just ends and goes, yeah, you don't talk about my bullet sponges like that.
Now, NB Geek, here's a question I've wanted to ask you for a while. How is it that you managed to graduate from eating crayons to sitting in a chair?
If I'm being completely honest with you, I never fully did. I'm seriously going to explain that. I knew a lot of Marines who transferred over to the Air Force. And we all kind of said the same thing. It took us about 2 years to transition about as well as we were going to in the Air Force. We never fully transitioned because I never stopped being able to act like a Marine. I was able to know that, okay, I'm in the Air Force now. Certain things I did back then I can't do now. But for example, I had one point where I was an E6 tech sergeant and I had this little E4. She was an E3. And I said, hey, I need you to go take care of this. She goes, I ain't going to just get up and take care of that. And she was being joking. See, the thing is, I knew she was joking, but the only other person who freaked, nobody else even batted an eye except for the other Marine in the room. Because literally, I saw his face, and he was a contractor now, and I saw his face do this when he heard that.
Well, yeah, because it's just like, did somebody just tell a fucking staff NCO that they weren't going to do something? Oh, baby, no.
No.
And I literally went full Marine mode, and I said, no, you will go do it. You will not question my orders. Do I make myself clear, airman? And I did it in front of the entire room. See, in the Air Force, they like to do the one-on-one counseling, or they like to do the general counseling. In the Marine Corps, we point out who fucked up and why you're paying for it.
Yeah, and
Like
everybody's going to learn from your mistake.
Oh yeah, oh god, let's talk about PT in the winter.
Mhm.
Green on green sweat. Be that one motherfucker who didn't show up with the green sweatshirt or the green sweatpants. Everybody paid.
Yep.
Now, I have a story like that, similar like that too. Well, not the uniform thing, but I was training up for my 4th deployment as a contract specialist, right? And this was going to be a joint deployment. So we had all 5 branches or 4 branches.
Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines.
Right. Yeah. So we had members from all 4 branches.
The ones that matter.
And they all showed up at what's that one that straddles Kentucky and it's where the 101st Airborne is.
Fort Campbell?
Yeah.
Kentucky.
So we showed up there and they put us in old barracks. Barracks that had been decommissioned. Well, we'd been planning this for months. So we got the barracks cleaned and got furniture put in, stuff like that. But we showed up and the Army checked in. We went, oh, okay, that room, no problem. 4 other people in the room, no problem. Marines showed up. Oh, we get a room? Navy showed up and said, well, I've bunked before. Air Force showed up and said, I can't stay here. Oh, no, this ain't right. You need to get us a hotel room.
I remember the first time I walked into an Air Force dormitorium and I was like, what the fuck is this? They were like, oh, we keep 4 people to a room. It's like everybody has their own individual room. There's a community center they've got their community center out there, which is their living room area and their kitchen. I'm like, yeah, that's, they're like, you didn't have that in the Marine Corps? I said, yeah, we fucking had a community area in the Marine Corps. It was called one on each deck.
Pretty much
right next to the laundry.
Mm-hmm. Where you'd have like
where
3
you have
washing
to do your
machines
own
that one would
laundry.
work.
So I don't have any thrilling stories, but MB Geek did bring up a memory from my past. So in my younger years, I used to go to the bar quite often. And one of my favorite ones was the Legion. Because 9 times out of 10, you can go there, you can get half sauced, and nobody's going to mess with you. As long as you're respectful, you're fine. So I used to drink at the Legion quite a bit. So I'm sitting there, and it happened to be right near Remembrance Day. Not on the day, but pretty close. So a lot of the vets were out. So you could tell the divisions. You had your civvies on one side of the Legion. You had your current forces sitting at one table, and then you had the vets sitting at another section, right? So everybody's having a good time. Now, I don't know who dared this guy.
Oh, no.
And they better have paid him well, because the beating he got when he walked into that Legion definitely wasn't worth the money. So there had to be something on the line here, because I don't know how he screwed up. But anyway, so he walks into the Canadian Legion full of current members and past members and says the Canadian military are nothing but a bunch of slouches and are no good for all.
So he was trying to start a fight.
He was
He
just trying to get an
didn't
ass
leave that
whooping.
bar on his
That wasn't
feet.
very smart.
He left it by his head. And the only way to get out of the bar was a crash bar. Well, the crash bar was opened with his head. And it wasn't even the current guys. They didn't even get a chance. It was the vets that took him out.
Right. I remember one Marine Corps birthday, like
Oh
this
yeah,
guy kept jawing off at one of my boys. And I don't know what this guy's problem was, but this guy, he was obviously not a very bright human being because he's sitting there antagonizing, first of all, a Marine infantryman, which is not going to end well one-on-one. And there's probably 70 of us in this bar. So, and he even tells him, he's just like, dude, not only am I going to beat your ass, then all of my friends are going to have a fucking turn. And sure enough, this guy swung at him anyway. And
oh no,
the
he wasn't
bartender
that
called the cops
stupid.
just to deal with the aftermath of it. And like we thought we might be getting in trouble. The cop just like literally, looks at him and the condition he's in, and then looks at all of us, just kind of goes, "You're a fucking idiot," and then walks away.
We had a situation once. I think we were in camp. I was at Camp Lejeune, and it was at the Tar Heel. And this one little civvy bastard. I mean, this is Camp Lejeune. This is predominantly Marine and Navy and dependents. So I'm at the Tar Heel, where it's a country music place, where a lot of us hung out. And you had this guy literally go up and hit on an active Marine's wife. He literally went up and hit on a Marine's wife. After 3 people said, dude, he was talking, the civvies tried to tell him not to. He comes up and he's flirting with her, and it's kind of like her husband comes back with a beer. He's like, yeah, that's my wife you're flirting with. How's it going? He's like, I'll fight you for her. I'm like, and then all of a sudden he goes, you think you want to fight with everybody else in here? I'm the guy sitting at the table. He goes, who else is going to fight for you? I'm like, me. And then 3 of us, the rest of us all kind of said, me. Oh, we got a fight going?
Yeah, right.
All of a sudden it was like, once we knew there was a fight about to happen, we're all standing up and this guy's like, are you guys serious?
That's that moment where you realize you have officially fucked up.
Yeah.
It's like, were we serious? I think he figured that out pretty quick because nobody answered and he walked away.
Well, guys,
He was smart enough to walk away.
It's been nearly an hour.
It's very simple.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So let's go ahead, go around and plug your channels. Let us know what you got going on. History.
You
All
cut
right,
it off at an
so
hour,
history
bud?
with R&R is my secondary. Rambling Canuck is the first primary. Mainly, I put a lot of work into the video. Mr. CCTV is part of it. There was a video dropped on history with R&R this morning to honor the veterans. If you'd all go take a look at that, that'd be great. Other than that, not much.
All right, Pope.
Well, as of right now, I'm going to be on Pop Culture Minefield's channel in a little while for his Veterans Day episode. And then I'm going to have my own show tonight on my channel about All Quiet on the Western Front. I'm going to review the new movie and then compare it to the 1979.
Oh, nice.
So
Right
that should
on.
be a lot of fun.
I've read the book.
I just reread it and I just watched both.
I've never seen the movies. I've just read the book.
I'd heavily recommend the 79 movie. It's great. And the new one's good. It's a little bit different.
I heard the new one was good.
It's really good.
Yeah, I've read the book. I just never saw a movie on it yet.
Yeah. So that would be great. And hopefully you guys will join me for that because it's been it's going to be pretty good. And then unfortunately after that, I'm going on a hiatus because I'm moving to Virginia. So
Eek.
it's going to take a while for me to get set up.
You're moving to Virginia?
Yeah, I'm moving to Virginia.
Nice. Virginia's nice. I lived in West Virginia for a long time. On the border, right at the tip of Virginia.
So like over by Martinsburg?
I think so, man. It's been a long time. I was a kid back then.
Yeah. So
No, I'm sorry. Fuck that. I'm sorry. No, I lived in West Virginia near Pittsburgh,
okay.
Pennsylvania area. Sorry, I lived up in the tip. I'm totally off on my geographic here. Sorry, bud.
All
All right,
Yeah.
positive candor.
Which part of Virginia?
No, yeah. I mean, do you have any upcoming shows, streams, stuff like that, or you just want to plug your channel, or what?
Yeah, I'll just plug my channel mainly. Eventually, I'll stream something or another. But yeah, my channel name same positive candor, same as my Twitter handle is positive candor. So, yeah, all you got to do is just check either of those out, I guess, whenever. But yeah, I know I was in Virginia for a long time in the military, in the Hampton Roads area.
I'm going to, like, towards the western part of the state, over by Winchester.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was mainly obviously by the shipyard, Norfolk, Chesapeake, whatever area you want to call that. Obviously, since both of my ships were basically in that area. Of course, all the carriers and stuff are at the Norfolk Naval Base, and then the amphibious ships are out of the amphibious bases. Basically, it's also in Norfolk, but it's at a different area of Norfolk.
And NB Geeks.
I don't have anything to plug. I do want to say this to all of us veterans. Let's just remember the fact we're the lucky ones. We wrote the check for the full amount, and we actually didn't have to cash it. And I know many of us know people who did have to cash that check.
Yeah.
Or who cashed it later after the fact.
After coming home.
Sadly,
Yeah.
all too many.
I forgot.
Way
to put that
too
up
many,
here.
man. And this is that time of the year when it really hits veterans and active duty the most. This is the time we got to be the strongest for our people in our community. I'm heavy into politics. But that's a hobby. My love and my passion is the geek community and the military community and my brothers and sisters. No matter what, you guys are always. I will put everything off to the table to work with my fellow community veterans. Absolutely. Because, guys, I'm still getting used to being a veteran. I've only been a veteran 3 years. This is my third veteran year as a retiree. I'm still getting used to it. This civilian life ain't easy to adjust to.
And I want to say thank you for being here, guys, on the panel. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I do keep it down to an hour. That's a personal choice. I don't like to go too long on streams unless I black out drunk and make stupid streams in the middle of the night. But, ignore those and pay attention to these. But yeah, I do keep them down to an hour. And these 2 videos I played on this one are the first time I ever edited anything myself. I usually have other people do it for me. So thank you to the veterans. Thank you to those who we lost either over there or when we came back. The phone number at the bottom, Veterans Crisis Line. Please share that out to people. They'll answer anytime, night or day. All right.
And I know from personal experience because I've called that number.
Now, this ending video is something I put together because I like the services from youngest to oldest. So hopefully this turns out okay.
I shall on purpose be. Remembrances are gone, our brave and holy true. To fight and save or fight and none like the star we are for you. Off we go into the wild blue yonder, riding high into the sun. Here we come, singing beat our thunder, and the boys give it the gun, give it the gun! Down we dive, starting the flame from under, up we run, get up a roll. We live in brave, we're down in turn, hey, nothing is up to you as Air Force. Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to foreign shores, we sail and break the gate of day. Our last night from shore, hail to the foe. Until we meet once more, this rescue of glorious home. From the halls of mountains to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battle in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor free. We are proud to sing on time, on United States glory. Let's fight for the flag and to keep the nation's flag, when the army will slowly go home. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's done, when the army will slowly go home. Vengeance high, high, say, the army's on its way. Count down the pages of its soul. So whenever we go, we will always know that the army will slowly go home.
All right. Once again, thank you guys for being here. I hope you sang along with your own branch
What?
song.
What? Wait. There's no Space Force song?
I don't think they have a hymn yet. They've only been around a few years, buddy. I actually have a friend of mine who from the Air Force who got offered a transfer over to the Space Force to help start it up, and he's about to retire out of there next year. So they're still finding their footing.
Given how much else they've ripped off from Star Trek, it wouldn't surprise me if they'd use whatever Starfleet uses as an anthem.
No, come on.
All right. Now, because I'm American, I'm going to say it this way. Happy Veterans Day to all. Rambling Canuck, you can say, I don't know.
And happy Remembrance Day to all those in Canada.
All right. And with that, we're going to end the broadcast.